The fiend's hand grasped for the asphalt. It was out of breath, its body severely damaged. Its regenerational abilities had slowed down to a crawl, and it hasn't eaten in days. The fiend's mounting wounds were seeping red liquid all over the ground. The humans, worthless mortals around it, screamed in terror, afraid of the danger the monster was still posing. Good. Great. So why didn't she? Why did she do this to them? Halfway down the road, the fiend had recovered enough to stand. Limping, they shifted forward. Such a pathetic display. The fiend felt like crying. They felt worthless and beaten. And then, from somewhere before them, a black vehicle stopped in their tracks. The fiend fell on their knees as they recognized the public safety devil hunters. "Are you serious?" it croaked. This was a disaster. The fiend had left now 2 healths behind, and now they were going to enter the 3rd. This wasn't funny anymore. The devil hunters slowly, almost casually approached. "Sheesh, what's up with that one?" chuckled the blond man with sharp teeth. "Must have fought a private hunter." The fiend's eye twitched. "No," it said, its voice something between a whisper and a growl. "It was her." The hunters looked at each other in confusion. "The schoolgirl." From somewhere behind the fiend, the hunters noticed a girl peeking around the corner. Damn it. This wasn't the first time she escaped. First time, however, you could recapture the fiend before any devil hunters showed up to seal your fiend away. But you could handle this with words. You were about to take a step forward when someone grabbed your neck. "Hey, what's up with this one?" It was a girl. She reeked of sweat and blood. And were those horns? Was she a fiend too? What was she doing here? "Usually mortal scum like you flees at the sight of a devil, but you grinned. "Is that your prey?" She pointed with her hand towards the crying fiend. "Yes, I guess." The girl laughed loud enough that now you had the devil hunter's attention. You were busted. You were pushed by the stinky fiend girl towards the devil hunters, yet you couldn't stop yourself from glaring at what you considered your fiend. The creature was shaking and refused to look at you. Outside of the girl, there were 2 guys. A cute blonde with an axe in his right hand, and a cold-looking black-haired dude with a top knot. "So mind telling me what's going on here?" said the serious guy. You bit your lower lip as the fiend whimpered. "If you don't answer, I will have to detain you after killing that fiend." "No!" you shouted. Your eye twitched angrily. Ugh, damn it. An emotional outburst. The last thing you needed. Just let me take that thing back. It just escaped. It won't happen again." With disgust, you look down at it. "Not like it's going to hurt anyone." The blonde smiled. He liked your fire, and your high school uniform looked really snug on you, in the best way possible. All I want to know is the basic rundown of what is happening here. Then we make a decision. You cross your arms, averting your gaze. This thing has possessed my mom's body. Shock ran through the group. You said it a little too casually. But the smelly fiend just bursted out into violent laughter. Were you trying to get her back, or... Oh no, I hated my mother. Why else would she look like this? The hunters now looked over to the fiend. The serious guy, Aki Hayakawa, had realized that this was the crab fiend. Well, yes, all human features were present. Her right arm was entirely covered by thick red chitin, ending in a not-so-dangerous-looking broken pincer claw. Okay, he said finally. My name is Aki Hayakawa. The fiend who is restraining you is Power, and that is Denji. Sub! Yeah, sub. We are taking you with us for questioning. I admit I have never seen a scenario such as this before. Do you mind? You look at the fiend possessing the corpse of your mother. Do I get her back? I think you know the answer to that. You shrugged. Might as well try, right? Aki and Power took the fiend in their car, while you waited with Denji for pickup. The man was chewing on some bubblegum and he just couldn't stop looking at you. His eyes seemed to glimmer. So, you want some? He held up his half-bitten off chewing gum strip. You blinked. I'm not really in the mood. Thanks. Quickly he threw the rest into his jaw. He probably wouldn't have given it to you anyways. The silence between the two of you was a little awkward. And so you finally asked, So, am I arrested? At least I don't think so. You're not in handcuffs. You close your eyes for a moment. You really wanted to spit out that gum. His chewing was loud and annoying. Finally, a second car arrived. There was a woman at the driver's seat. Oh, Miss Makima, said Denji, after he quickly spit out the gum. The woman was arguably beautiful. Long scarlet red hair and a perfect physique. If anything, she maybe was a little too pretty. Like a doll. It unnerved you. Her glowing yellow eyes moved up and down your body for a moment before she acknowledged Denji. She smiled at him. Hello, Denji. I'm here to pick you two up. Her voice was almost a whisper, and definitely calm. And you are? You instantly blushed. Akiko Tokayami. You blurted out without thinking. You were a petite high school girl with long black hair and green eyes. If it wasn't for your admittedly perfect pearly white and smooth skin, you were completely unremarkable. Nice to meet you, Akiko. You sat down next to Denji on the car's back seat. So, are you the high school girl who captured a fiend all on her own? Yes. Makima smiled. I see. Interesting. It isn't often a civilian manages this. Really, really? It didn't feel that hard. What was this? It's like you were unable to stop talking in her presence. Well, admittedly, the crab devil isn't that powerful, but any devil can kill a human at a moment's notice, even as fiends. And sure, the crab devil may be at the lower end of devils when it comes to strength, but it is still a feat worthy of admiration. Makima blinked, a cold smile on her lips. Denji, I'd like you to do her interrogation. The redhead's eyes looked right into yours through the car's mirror. If you're all right with that, we have questions. Your heartbeat slowed as you had the desperate need to make yourself smaller. Sure, you stuttered. An hour later, you left the car, though you could have sworn that it took a long route, as you were familiar with the area. You probably just wanted to make sure that the other car had deposited the fiend safely. As Makima unlocked the doors, you stepped outside. God, this day was already ruined, wasn't it? You followed the two public safety agents into a foreboding building, where you were processed like cattle, signing paperwork, taking pictures. You felt as you were being arrested. You were then pushed into a neutral-colored room with only a table and 2 chairs in it. The entire back of it was covered by a blackened window. But before Makima closed the door, she pulled you closer. Denji will be responsible for your interrogation. It is his first time doing something so important. Please be as honest with him as you can. Understand? Her eyes looked even more mesmerizing up close. God, how you hated that. It made your skin crawl, and the hairs on your back standing up. Yes, Miss Makima, I understand. You never, ever had felt intimidated by a woman before. But this commanding presence she had, it just was completely and all-consuming. Hell, if she had asked you to plunge a knife into Denji, you probably would have done it. Feeling as the consequences of not doing it would be far worse than anything else. Quietly you sat down, the blonde soon entering the room. He was smiling and had a file in his hand. Leisurely, he threw himself on the chair before you. All right! He clicked his pen a couple times. So! He placed a little audio recorder on the table and put it on record. Almost made you chuckle. Didn't these rooms have microphone cameras everywhere? Then again, this wasn't specifically a police department. And judging by the thin, almost unnoticeable scratches on the table, you doubted many humans, if any, were ever interrogated here. Ms. Makima gave me a whole list of questions I'm supposed to ask you. I assumed as such. Grinning, he scratched the back of his head. Well, yeah, who are you? Akiko Tokeyami. I'm 17. Final year of high school. Denji nodded. You're older than me, he wrote down. You blinked. Wait, isn't that a little young for... Hey, I'm asking the questions. He puffed up his cheeks. He definitely wasn't taking this serious. And you couldn't help but smile. He was a dork. A likable one at that. I'll just... He scribbled a little more on the paper. And high schooler to occupation. Okay, so, mind telling me what this was all about? According to Aki, that devil is traumatized. I got a little creative, that's all. Denji bit his lower lip. I mean, what he told me you did to them, that was a little more than creative. He looked incredibly satisfied. That was freaking awesome, actually, what he told me. Blushing, you scratched your chin. Well, I mean, all I did was use a hammer, and a knife, and a nutcracker, a hydraulic press, a lot of salt, acid, bleach, melted butter, bamboo scraps? Man, you must have really hated that devil for taking your mom's corpse, huh? That's when your heart skipped a beat. 100% honesty. You gulped. Honestly, I don't actually mind that poor devil. Huh? The fact that she had become a fiend, it hardly mattered in my decision-making. I needed to let out my frustration with her. Denji gasped, and you would feel the atmosphere in the room shift. Taken aback, the devil hunter flipped through the pages. And, even this part was just you blowing off steam? He pointed at a line and it made you laugh, like one did when looking back at an awkward childhood memory. Oh, that was a funny story. I flunked a math test that I was sure would be an A. Denji right now was somewhere between absolutely turned on and terrified. He was honestly ready to just say to Aki, "This chick, man!" So like, why did you put it in there? You shrugged. I felt a little metaphorical, you know? That place is usually only used for pleasure, so turning the concept upside down, it felt artistic in a way. So, like, why did you do this? I don't understand, and you really made me curious now. You forced a smile. You didn't know it, but the half-devil Denji really had trouble building up interest in things. So this was rare. You should treasure it, if you knew. I hate my mother for what she did to me. Denji tilted his head. Now he was getting down to business. He felt like a true detective now. Awesome. See, my blood is cursed. Infected is a better word. When my mother was 16, she had a run-in with the virus devil, and in exchange for her life, it forced her to sign a contract, which gave her 20 years, before she would instantly succumb to every disease currently known to man. The only way to fix it was giving birth, which would pass on the curse to them. In other words, me. I have 4 years to live before I will suffer every illness in the goddamn book and melt away and die. I was fortunate that she got run over by a car. Even more fortunate that devil possessed it. Denji looked horrified. From behind the blackened window, Aki huffed. Whoa, quite the story, was all he could say. Makima stood next to him, seemingly uncaring. Yet hundreds of thoughts wafted throughout her head. A curiosity and a sick sense of almost pleasure. She got an idea. Aki, Please leave the room. Of course, Miss Makima, he said. Once the door was closed behind the man, she smirked, and over the intercom said, Aki and I will be going now. You're doing a great job, Denji. Keep going. Denji grinned from ear to ear. Miss Makima, he chuckled. Do you love her? He blushed hard, scratching the back of his head. Well, I don't know. I mean, she's like super hot, but you know. You wanna fuck, that's okay. It's natural. This chick, man, shouted Denji's inner voice. And smiling, he asked, I mean, yeah. Natural and all. And that's when you saw a chance. You still weren't done with your mother, and you'd do everything to get her back. Can you promise me to get me my mom back? I'd let you hit me. Denji dropped his pen, his pupils becoming big, his mouth dry. What? I mean, you're cute. You're obviously into me. It's worth a try. Denji tapped his fingers on the table, his hand grabbing his chest. It's happening, Pochita, he thought. I can't make promises. There was a high chance the fiend was already dead, though in that case he didn't know about it officially. Your hand was suddenly under his chin. While he had been thinking, you had climbed on the table. His wide eyes stared right into yours, while you gently touched his face. You smirked softly, enchanting at him. He admired your determination to make the fiend's life a living hell, despite it being more your rage against your mom. Your other hand took hold of his tie, and without warning, you pulled him in, kissing him. It was soft, gentle, almost shy even. A touch as tender as a butterfly's wing. You pulled back a little, and he gasped. What's wrong? He tried to remember what Miss Makima said that day with her in the office. The better you understand the other person, the better it feels. He exhaled. This interrogation felt like he was being forced to understand you. Was he really about to throw his first time away like this? Like his first boob fondling? His gaze focused back on your face, and you smirked. Understanding the problem, slowly you slid off the table, unbuttoning only the two top buttons of your blouse before sitting down on his lap. He held you close as you tried to make yourself look as small and weak as possible. If it wasn't for his nagging thought of you being a stone-cold monster killer, this might even have been the best thing his eyes had ever seen. Anticipation was the key here, finding the right rhythm. He clearly was someone who went through a lot of shit in his life. You did too, but instincts told you that you couldn't even fathom just how terrible his life had been up to this point. His hands reached for the leftover buttons, but then you placed a finger on his lips. Smiling almost smugly, you spoke. Denji, do you really want to do it so quickly? You leaned up, whispering into his ear. If I were you, I'd savor this. You're alright, he thought. The blonde retreated his hands from your chest, instead wrapping his arms around your hips, allowing you to once again kiss him. More directly, stronger, more intimate. It was your tongue that parted his lips, slowly and gentle. You sharply exhaled through your nose. Denji's tongue still tasted like strawberry bubblegum, which was good, as he wasn't the best kisser. His tongue first tried to wrestle yours, and it was only thanks to your gentle exploration of his mouth that it calmed down eventually. Slowly he began to understand how this worked. He made a pleased noise, his right hand now coming closer, gently squeezing your cheek. Denji might be a little dim and a dork, but he was a quick learner. The lesson just needed to be enjoyable. He stood up from the chair, sitting you down on the table after swiping away the papers. Parting your legs, Denji released from your mouth, breathing heavily. It was as if he waited for your next move. With a smile, you nodded towards his shirt. Leaning back, he allowed you to open it. You raised an eyebrow as your hands touched his chest. He was muscular, a telltale sign of his life. Your hands lit up his chest, clasping around his chin once again. Denji, you whispered in a loving tone. Try and be gentle, but you don't have to. Okay? It was 2 hours later. You were a shivering mess on the back seat of Makima's car. Once again, she was driving. She said she'd get you home, but that definitely was the wrong way. So, Akiko, what are your plans now? Makima had promised you that the fiend was already on the way to your family home, like a present, but you now heavily doubted that. It was just something to bait you into the car. You felt sick and stupid for falling for it. Continue as I did before. Though, maybe I'll call Denji, you muttered. He had written a phone number on your hand, promising that that was the one of his house. After the two of you had finished with your, lewd business. You know, I've seen you too. What you were doing, I mean. Or more, what you were doing with him. Denji is a very special boy to me. You know, Akiko. Makima smiled. She had planned and schemed far too long, and waiting for you to die in 3 years wasn't on her to-do list. Okay. You were going to die. You could feel it. She stopped the car at a parking lot. I'll make you a little offer then. Okay, this was it. She was going to play her cards. You're a silly, desperate girl who wanted nothing but to enact your sick sense of vengeance against your own mother, who had cursed your existence. Makima turned around in the seat. Her eyes seemed as if they were glowing. As I see it, You have two options. You can choose to die right here. No one would miss you. No one would care. Her words snaked into her ears like poison. I would make it quick and painless. It's the least I can do after all. The way she made killing you sound like she was doing you a favor made your stomach turn. And the other option? I have connections, Akiko. If you accept my deal, that is. You could live the rest of your life, short as it is, in Europe. In various high-class hotels and spas of your choosing. Enjoy the high life. Maybe even get pregnant by a hot-blooded Spanish boy and get to live just a tiny bit longer. So she wanted you gone. That much was obvious. But was she lying? See it as a devil's contract. If you agree, you're never to return to Japan. Never to contact anyone from Japan. And just, Japan doesn't exist for you. What happens here is none of your business. What about my mother? I can arrange her getting sent over to wherever you decide to settle down. Just give the agents that will be accompanying you to make sure you don't break our little arrangement the details of where to drop her off. What about Denji? He's under my care. It didn't really sound like you had a choice here. She had all the cards in her hands. You could feel your little heart break a little as you licked over your hand before rubbing off the number. Pleased with herself, Makima turned to her normal sitting position, turning on her car once again. I'll be dropping you off at your place now. You will be picked up in 2 hours. I hope by then you have picked up everything you'd like to keep. And welcome to your new life.
Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.